How you going, guys? If you're new to my channel, this video is part of a Bhagavad Gita playlist for beginners. You'll see it on my channel. This is part 2 of chapter 7, and this will end the chapter of chapter 7. There's only 30 verses in it, but just a quick review. What we learnt in part 1, verses 1 to 14, Krishna was basically saying, if we truly want inner peace, enlightenment, moksha, liberation, we need knowledge and devotion. If you've studied the path of Advaita Vedanta, what I've spent so many years on, I am so grateful I found this path of knowledge, Advaita Vedanta. It's so important to understand this reality is the one fabric appearing separate, intellectually. But then at a certain point, we need to feel oneness. We need to understand oneness and also feel it. So Krishna's saying we need knowledge and devotion. So the true secret to feeling oneness, feeling the absence of separation, is through love, is through the feelings of non-separation. And how do we do that? Devotion. And me, for the longest time, I did not want to touch devotion. I grew up in religion and I thought, no, I don't want to do all this devotion. Why? But it is honestly the game changer. There's a beautiful quote I once heard. It's basically, how does it go? Without knowledge, there is no faith, and without faith, love cannot grow. Basically, the intellect needs to be convinced. This describes my path so beautifully. The intellect needs knowledge. Give me some knowledge. Why? Give me the why. Then it turns into faith, in the sense of, okay, it's the one appearing separate. I get it. Now what am I meant to do? I still feel like a person living a life. I understand it's not separate. What am I meant to do? Have faith. Have faith in these devotional teachings. That if you practice love, devotion, surrender, what happens? You take it on faith that putting these into practices, something's going to happen. What happens? The feeling of love, oneness, unity. So we need knowledge, which turns into faith. Faith turns into love. Oneness, the feeling of oneness. So beautiful. That's why I talk about devotion a lot. I'm a convert of devotion. With the underpinning of Advaita Vedanta, of course. So that's one thing Krishna talked about. We need knowledge and devotion. He also talked about his higher and lower nature. The material world is his lower nature. The spiritual world is his higher nature. It's all Krishna, but there's the material world and the spiritual world. He was also talking about he's the foundation of all reality. He's the taste in water. He's the intellect of the intelligent. He's the strength in the strong. He's the foundation. He is that which underpins all reality. If we were in a dream right now, where is the dreamer? Where is Krishna? Where are you? Where's the proof? He transcends the dream. He's not limited by the laws of the dream. Time, space, causation that we experience. He transcends the dream, yet paradoxically, the fabric it's made from. Transcendent yet immanent. The mind wants certainty. Sorry, mind. Reality is paradoxical. If God could be understood with the mind, that's a limited God. The final thing he touched on is, this reality is Maya. It is so difficult to overcome Maya. Think of it like God's game. God created the game. And God's saying to us, look, I'll help you out of the game. I'll give you the cheat code. All you need to do is surrender, trust, and devote to me. You'll cross through this game so easily. But our stubborn little intellect, our ego says, no, I don't need your help. I can figure this game out. And God says, try it. I'm not stopping you. Try to defeat the game. When you're ready, call me and I'll come and help. That's basically the gist of what was happening in verses 1 to 14. But now let's get into verses 15 to 30 to end the chapter. So let's go. Chapter 7, verse 15. 4 kinds of people do not surrender unto me. Those ignorant of knowledge, those who lazily follow their lower nature, though capable of knowing me, those with deluded intellect, and those of a demonic nature. These are the 4 types of people that will not surrender to Krishna. People that just don't know any better. They think I'm a separate person in a separate world. They haven't heard teachings of Krishna, for instance, you can't blame them. We all naturally think there's happiness in this world till we go after it. And they're innocent. They're ignorant. The second type of person, he says, they're just following their lower nature out of laziness. They're capable, or they've heard these teachings, but they're like, no, I can't be bothered. Even if God is the source of happiness, it's too hard. So those that lazily follow their lower nature. The third type of person with the deluded intellect. When we have a lot of pride and arrogance, we think we're so smart and so intelligent. What is Krishna saying? He's the intellect of the intelligent. We're like an arrogant robot. When we're very intellectual, when we think we know it all, we're an arrogant robot. Everything we've been taught has been fed to us from this world. And you might be saying, isn't that the same with teachings of God? Isn't this all taught to us too? True. That's correct. But what are these teachings pointing to? All these teachings, all this programming, you might be thinking, this was taught to you too. You're just spouting off what you know. It's telling you, use this programming, this God programming conditioning, to do spiritual practice. Sink into deep states of meditation below the thinking mind. If your mind is like a helmet, take it off, put it on the ground. Realize God at the level of heart, beyond language, beyond thinking. Do selfless service, love and devotion. It's a felt experience. That's all these teachings are telling us. No happiness here. We can show it to you if you follow the steps. Try it for yourself. You'll see it. It's going to fail. Then you'll be ready to go, okay, let me try some love, service, devotion. Beyond language, beyond intellect, beyond comprehension. That's the realm of God. That's what they're saying. The final type of person that doesn't surrender, those with a demonic nature. Those that actively oppose God. They know God is a true source of happiness, but they refuse to submit, they hate God, and they want to disrupt others. Misleading others not to find the true source of happiness too. The old struggle between good and evil, God and the devil, I guess you can say. Verse 16. O best amongst the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious people engage in my devotion. The distressed, the seekers of knowledge, the seekers of worldly possessions, and those who are situated in knowledge. The distressed. Many people find God through their life falling apart. That's why many people in Christianity say they found Jesus in their time of need. When everything's fallen apart, they've run out of answers, they turn to God. In a moment of distress, they find God. That's one path. The other path is the seekers of knowledge. For instance, if you enter Advaita Vedanta, such as myself, you're just interested. Life is generally okay. You've got a bit of suffering and annoyance, but you have this urge to know more about reality. Is there anything more? You're interested to know about God. The seekers of knowledge, which, like I said, eventually needs to turn into devotion. But we start with knowledge first, if you're anything like myself. The seekers of worldly possessions, those that say, look, I believe in a God, and I also believe there's happiness in this material world, so I'm going to use God as a servant. Please, God, give me this. Please, God, give me that. If this God doesn't do it for me, let me pray to Krishna. Doesn't work? Okay, let me pray to Shiva. Let me pray to Mother Kali. Let me pray. Is there any God out there that can help me with my worldly attainment? That's the third type of seeker. Krishna is basically saying, whoever you pray to, it's ultimately him deciding whether you get the results or not. He mentions it a bit later. But basically, using God as a servant, whichever God will help you. And the final person is those situated in knowledge. Those that love God for God's sake. Those that have realized, I'm not here to fulfill material desires. I've tried it, and it's not doing it for me. It'll be like when you're a child, you're fascinated with the toys. Your whole life and happiness is about toys. But at a certain age, you grow up and you renounce the toys. You say, look, I get it. They're cool and all, but I want something higher. So that final person is like, I'm not interested in the toys. I'm not going to pray to God for more toys. It doesn't interest me. I want God. I've got higher things on my mind. This isn't to judge or criticize anyone. They say all our souls start off naturally, thinking I'm a separate person in a separate world. I want material happiness. Then we slowly evolve. We're all on this path back to God, or realizing we were never separate with God. That's why, again, I love Hinduism. They just say, let people be as they are. Everyone's making their way back. Just let them be. You don't have to try to convince them, try to tell them they're doing it wrong. Everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's why, again, I love this religion. They call it the eternal way, Sanatana Dharma. It's the eternal law. Verse 17. Amongst these, I consider them to be the highest, who worship me with knowledge and steadfastly and exclusively are devoted to me. I am very dear to them, and they are very dear to me. Those who worship him with knowledge and are steadfastly and exclusively devoted to him. Because all knowledge culminates in love. Love for God, love for Krishna. Like I said, my own story. I can pick apart Advaita Vedanta philosophy so easily. I've studied it for so many years. But all that knowledge culminated in me saying, what do I do now? I understand it's the one appearing separate, but I still feel like I'm here. My parents are there. My partner's there. My co-workers. I get it. This is all an appearance. But I don't feel one. What do I do now? What is God in Hinduism? The one source associated with all bodies and minds. The one source Brahman associated with this body and mind is Simon. The one source associated with all bodies and minds is God. So this little apparent entity and the super entity God, same fabric, but we're playing very different roles. So what does this little entity have to do? Surrender, serve, submit, devote, trust to a higher power. Then you understand everything is one and feel oneness. Reality is a paradox. It's the one appearing separate. Which is more true? Neither and both. Verse 18. All those who are devoted to me are indeed noble, but those in knowledge who are of steadfast mind, whose intellect is merged in me and have made me alone as their supreme goal, I consider my very self. Krishna loves anyone that's devoted to him. The distressed seeker, the one that's praying to Krishna for worldly desires, the one that just loves learning about God but not putting it into practice. Krishna is saying, I love all my devotees. But the one dearest to me has situated their intellect in me, constantly keeps me on their mind, and devotes and loves me. The very dearest. He considers them his very self. The more you love God, the more God loves you back. It's like a virtuous cycle. If you want to approach God casually, you'll get casual results. If you want to approach God full force, if you're ready, if you want to, you're going to get the full force of God's love. So again, God is always mirroring us. That's why I always quote that verse, chapter 4, verse 11. However my devotees approach me, I approach them in the same way. You want a lot of blessings, grace, and love from God? You need to put all your attention into God. God mirrors you. He loves you as much as you love him. Verse 19. After many births of spiritual practice, one who is endowed with knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be all that is. Such a great soul is indeed very rare. Again, one endowed with knowledge. You're getting all this knowledge, but what are you going to do with it? At a certain point, you need to put this knowledge into practice. And then you'll feel the results. That soul is very rare, Krishna is saying, because our mind is naturally, instinctively attached to the world. To say, look, I don't want this world. I didn't even want enlightenment. To even say that, I don't want this world. I don't want enlightenment. All I want is to love and serve Krishna. That soul is very rare. That's why this path is very difficult. For the very first fact that you need to have a faith in all this to begin with. But again, faith comes from knowledge. This isn't about blindly following, just get through life, giving up desires, going through suffering and torment. No, it's naturally, this grows on you. That's what I found. Just say all this was made up, which I honestly don't believe it is. Just say it was all made up. My life has changed so much with a daily routine of prayer, meditation, going around reality, thinking this is God or God's children appearing in front of me. Whenever things are going well, I say, thank you, God, for these blessings. Thank you for this experience and the senses you've given me to experience. When things go wrong, it reminds me God is testing my patience, non-reactivity, reminding me not to put my happiness in this world. Just living through that framework is going to give you such a beautiful, peaceful, happy, fulfilling life, even if all this was nonsense, which I honestly don't think it is. So you can't lose. That's what I'm basically saying. I'm going to read the next 3 verses all together because they all link up. Verse 20 to 22. Those whose knowledge has been carried away by material desires surrender to the celestial gods. Following their own nature, they worship the devotas, practicing rituals meant to propagate these celestial personalities. Verse 21, whatever celestial form of devotee seeks to worship with faith, I steady the faith of such a devotee in that form. I really like that verse. I'll get back to it in a moment. Endowed with faith, the devotee worships a particular celestial god and obtains the objects of desire. But in reality, I alone arrange these benefits. That was verse 22. Here's why I love verse 21. It reminds me of that chapter 4, verse 11. I'll read it again. Whatever celestial form a devotee seeks to worship with faith, I steady the faith of such a devotee in that form. Whatever you're freely choosing to worship, or whoever, Krishna's saying, in reality, I'm appearing in that God that you're worshipping, and I'm steadying your faith, making you continue to devote and serve that lower God. Why is he doing this? Because he understands we need to develop certain qualities to realize him as the ultimate. It's like lifting weights. If you're worshipping a lower God, Krishna's saying, look, the fact that you're worshipping, devoting, surrendering to a lower God, it's building up qualities of love, surrender, devotion. So he's saying, look, if you believe your happiness is in that form, whether it's even in the material world, if you devote and serve this material world, think there's happiness in it, Krishna's steadying your faith and giving you the results. Why is he doing this? To again develop love, devotion to something, anything. But then what he's slowly going to do is make us realize the limitations of this world, of these lower gods, and ultimately put all our love and happiness in Krishna. So we're like slowly moving up the levels. He's not going to say to you, stop chasing material desires. Stop worshipping these lower gods. It's ridiculous. He's saying no. Well, he's not saying it, but he's encouraging it. Because it's preparing the body and mind for true devotion. Love of Krishna for Krishna's sake. Again, we're all like, it's like a school for the soul. Some are at kindergarten level, some grade 1, some grade 7, some year 12, high school, some in university. Different levels. And we've all been moving up the levels. And we're all continuing to move up the levels. So again, no one's doing anything wrong ultimately in Krishna's eyes. We're all doing what we're supposed to be doing at the level that we're at. Verse 23, but the fruits gained by these people of little understanding is perishable. Those who worship the celestial gods go to the celestial abodes, while my devotees come to me. Again, he's saying, worship whoever you want, or whatever you want, and he'll give you the fruits of all that sacrifice devotion. But it's going to be perishable. So do your thing, worship what you want, the world or lower gods. He's saying, fine, you're developing feelings of love and devotion to something, that's good. But eventually you need to direct that to the Supreme Lord Krishna and you'll go to his abode. Not all these limited gods with their limited results. And those limited results from those limited gods are coming from Krishna anyway. It's like Krishna's the CEO and these lower gods are like lower management. Why not go straight to the boss? Because going to lower management, they need to check with the boss before they can give you the results anyway. So why not cut out the middleman, go to the top? But we're only going to do that when we're ready. To be told that, your intellect's going to just disregard this anyway and say, I don't need all this Krishna stuff. I don't need this God talk. I'm going to do it my way. So Krishna's like, fair enough, good. Do it your way until you don't want to do it your way anymore. Verse 24, the less intelligent think that I, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, was formless earlier and has now assumed this personality. They do not understand the imperishable, exalted nature of my personal form. In this verse, he's saying, look, my personal form is imperishable. That emanates the formless. What would the non-dualists say? Advaita Vedanta? No, the fundamental nature of reality is formless Brahman that emanates the form. Who's really right, honestly? Reality is a paradox. Krishna himself is saying, my personal form is imperishable, that emanates the formless. Advaita Vedanta says, the formless emanates the form. But in reality, if you're an Advaita Vedantan, the nature of reality is Brahman. Whether Brahman is formless or in form, Brahman. So we're just getting into the little details that ultimately don't matter. It only matters to the intellect. But at the level of the heart, who cares? As soon as you feel love and devotion surrender to this reality, who cares about all this intellectualizing? So pick what resonates with you more. Also knowing whatever you pick is not the ultimate truth, it's just a concept. Verse 25, I am not manifest to everyone, being veiled by my divine yoga maya energy. Hence, those without knowledge do not know that I am without birth and changeless. Verse 26, O Arjun, I know of past, present, and future, and I also know all living beings, but me, no one knows. God is seated within the heart of all beings. He knows the past, present, and future of all, but God, no one knows. Because to know God is a limited God again. God transcends this reality. God knows everything. He's all those omnis, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibenevolent. Again, taking it back to the dream example. If this was a dream, God is the dreamer of the dream, transcends the dream. God knows the entire dream. But God, no one knows. We can't escape the dream and know God. Yet paradoxically, the fabric this dream is made out of is God. So we can know God, but simultaneously not know God. The mind can't get there. Verse 27, O descendant of Bharat, the dualities of desire and aversion arise from illusion. O conqueror of enemies, all living beings in the material realm are deluded by these. Verse 28, but the persons whose sins have been destroyed by engaging in pious activities become free of the illusions of dualities. Such persons worship me with determination. So in these two verses, he's saying all this aversion and desire comes from illusion, comes from the power of Maya. When we forget God, our attention, where does it naturally go? Into the world. And then we desire some things, are averse to some things. We're in a constant battle. I like this, I don't like that. I want happiness here. I want to avoid misery over there. Constant treadmill. Because we're under the spell of Maya, illusion. But as he says in verse 28, by engaging in pious activities, you become free of the illusions of dualities. Such persons worship me with determination. Once you figure this out, once you realize, hang on, I get it. My mind can only be in one of two places, the world or God. And if this world isn't here for happiness, through experience and through knowledge and experience, you realize, I get it. There is no happiness in this world. The mind naturally goes to God with determination. What do you see this world as? This world isn't here for happiness. Nothing to do with the happiness. That's the job of the soul. What is this world here for? Knowledge, entertainment, to fulfill basic needs, practical purposes. Want to start a family? You need the world. Want some knowledge? The world. Want some entertainment? Some intellectual knowledge or knowledge to please the senses? Cool, it's here. Nothing to do with happiness because the nature of God is happiness. The soul is a small spark of God. If God was a fire of happiness, we're like a little flame of happiness. So our soul wants limitless happiness because that's what God is. It's a part of God. It can't find it in this world. So we suffer when we're using this world for the purpose it's not designed for. The whole point of this game of Maya is to make the soul realize there's no happiness in it. That's the game of Maya, the game of God. We naturally think there's happiness in it. It lets us down. Then we realize, hang on, it's not here for happiness. It's to transact with. It's used as a tool to realize it's not here for happiness. And then the game is done. Once we realize our union with God, the game of Maya is done. It no longer needs us anymore. It can't do anything anymore. That's the whole beautiful path and journey of moksha, liberation, union with God. Verse 29, those who take shelter in me, striving for liberation from old age and death, come to know the Brahman, the individual self and the entire field of karmic action. When you take shelter in Krishna, all this knowledge of reality is revealed, he's saying. And he's also setting us up for chapter 8, where he goes into detail of what he's going to talk about in the final verse 30. Verse 30, those who know me as the governing principle of the Adibhuta, field of matter, and the Adideva, the celestial gods, and as the Adi Yajna, the Lord of all sacrificial performances, such enlightened souls are in full consciousness of me, even at the time of death. Those terms he mentioned, he's going to explain in chapter 8. When we sincerely surrender, devote to God, all this wisdom comes to us. The knowledge of God is the knowledge of reality. Our little limited intellect is not capable of understanding God. But if you want to understand God, if you want to understand this reality, we need to take this little limited intellect off, serve, love, devote, surrender, and all this divine wisdom and knowledge will flood your very being. That's the promise. And again, the only faith we need is the faith we put in our professors and teachers at school. You go into a classroom, you say, look, I don't know this. I have full faith and trust. You know what you're talking about. Tell me what I need to know. Give me the practices so I can know what you know. That's what God's telling us. You don't know anything about this reality. I've got the instruction manual. Trust and surrender to me and you'll get it. But again, our ego doesn't want to submit and surrender. That's the difficult part. This is so easy, yet it's so hard due to ego. I'll leave it at that, guys. That concludes chapter 7, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next one, whatever video that might be. Take care.